Yo, 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 what's going on? What's popping, people? What's happening? It's your dog, Toddy, checking in with a video pop-up live stream at that. Hope we all doing good. Hope we all doing well on this hump day. Well, I guess technically hump night. But want to check in, man. I had an opportunity. Hold on, let me pause for a second. Had an opportunity to pop in since the first preseason game against the Denver Broncos. So I really want to come in and just relay my thoughts before the game gets any older. And it's already super old. So I just want to, give y'all my thoughts and my feedback. I promise I won't keep y'all long tonight. I know it's already it's already late. But again, I just want to come in and check in and talk about the game. Shout out to my dog MVM1978 is in the building. What's going on, MVM, man? I always appreciate the love, man. Appreciate the love, brother. Thank you very much. Yo, Tide, I'm not gonna crash out tonight. I like that. Yeah, I think all the crashing out is has subsided some, MVM, but man, there was a lot of crashing out, bro. Immediately after the game, bro. That's a lot of crashing out. And that's one of the things I really want to come in and talk about, the crashing out and, the feedback from us fans. You know what I mean? 82 Monte Carlo in the house. What's going on, man? It's all smoke and mirrors. Sleight of the hand. We're going to have a good season. I definitely hope so, bro. We're going to get into that also. Shout out to you, 82 Monte Carlo. We got Timothy Collision in the building. Says, yes, Falcon doomed already. I don't like how it is. So Timothy said, hey, man, you might well call the law because y'all about to get locked up. Hey, but that's real, though, Timothy. I appreciate the honesty, man. That's one thing, I really pride myself on, just giving honest takes, whether those takes are received well for objective honesty or they're received bad, all feedback, all criticism is welcome. Got Coach in the building. What's going on, Coach? From the Coach's Corner. Y'all make sure to check out my dog here on YouTube. I'm sure he's getting ready to crank it back up with the season. Well, the season is already here, so I should say with the regular season right around the corner. Only ones crashing out are Michael Penix Jr. stands his preseason. Shout out to you, Coach. TP Malik 1998. What up? Shout out to the 478. I hope my soundboard working. I saw on the last live stream, I was sitting there hinting it wasn't working. So I hope it is working. Shout out to the 478 in the building. We always have his house, Middle Georgia in this thing. So I'm just gonna pour up a drink and watch the chaos. Hey man, that's the best thing to do, bro. Don't let these Falcons drive you crazy. Because believe you me, they will definitely drive you crazy if you let them. Timothy says they need to learn how to pick players that can win games, not lose games. Stop buddying certain people like head coach Kevin and quarterback Tua, other people in the organization. So I think Timothy is pretty much saying, hey man, stop coddling players and coddling certain people in the organization. And like, hey man, when we draft or when we do free agency, let's get some players that know how to win NFL games, man. I heard that and I agree. LVM says, I did not like what I saw in the first game, but the more reps, the better we will become. I do agree about that. Definitely agree about that. Timothy says, we got the best running backs and wide receivers. I know that much. That really has always been a staple or hallmark for the most part for Atlanta, man. We've always had like real good running backs. Bijan is an exceptional running back. Some great to very good, real good wide receivers. So we have done well as an organization overall, for the very most part, on running backs and wide receivers. And get to the preseason game, we played the Broncos, and obviously we didn't look very good in the preseason. Pretty much from the first snap, pretty much to the last snap. Not something you can hang your hat on. And I'm gonna be totally honest with y'all. As I was watching the game, and then immediately after the game, what came to my mind is I was like, man, we don't look prepared. Like we just came out here. We didn't look prepared at all for the game. You know, that was really my feedback of it. And I spoke on that. And then the game was Saturday night, and by the time Monday got here, I was done with it. You know, I flushed it down the toilet. I was done with it once Monday got here. But our fan base, you know, they've been really, really upset about it. Like I say, the fans are crashing out about it still. I'm still like seeing and hearing people talk about it. I know they're still talking about it in the media, on the radio, you know. So fans very, very upset about how we look, how we perform in the preseason. And preseason, let's start there. But let's start with some personnel that I saw from some main characters. We do got to keep in mind, like, even though we had some starters play, you know, Bijan went out there, and you know, Drake went out there. You know, that's a huge part of the offense in itself, especially without having Bijan out there. Kyle Pitts was out there. You know, he looked, you know, pretty good for the limited time he played. If Stefanski was correct in what he said going into the game, those starters only played 10 snaps. So really not a whole lot to hold your hat on in terms of playing time. I think it was the second play of the game, Tua fumbled the snap. I don't know what was up with that, if he had jitterbugs or whatnot. And I know when Denver got the ball, they went right down the field and scored. You know, we saw Cooper Rush come in, and he looked terrible. I mean, he looked very bad, very, very bad. Jack Strand came in, and he looked. I guess he looked all right. You know, he looked all right. I know a lot of fans are real high on Jack Strand, but I didn't see anything from him in the first preseason game that made me jump for joy or feel like he's our undrafted free agent that's going to turn into Kurt Warner, which a lot of fans seem to think. You know, so I won't really get into the specifics or the particulars of the game, because it's Thursday now. You know, we play again in a couple days, so y'all have already heard this stuff ad nauseum about the specifics. And you know, there are a lot of good people that, you know, write about the Falcons or sit behind the microphone and cover the Falcons, and they've done a great job, you know, with the specifics. So I won't really get into that. I do want to talk about the generality of the preseason, because like I said, I thought they didn't look prepared. You know, I wasn't happy with the showing, but again, it is preseason. Now, our old coaching staff, they were highly criticized about not playing starters in the preseason. And Coach Stefanski takes over, obviously, in the offseason, and he lets us know, hey, I do plan on playing the starters, you know, first game a little bit, and, you know, maybe a little more in the third game. So I want to try to bring a different spin on the crashing out of how we look in the preseason. again, the last coaching staff was criticized heavily for not playing starters in the preseason. And now Stefanski comes in and he plays starters in the preseason. And our fans are crashing out. I'm hearing people saying that the coach is to blame. And, I've heard it all from the rooter to the tutor. But I want to put a different spin on it. Like, it is preseason. So if we look at it another way, isn't this the time to look terrible, make your mistakes, work on different wrinkles and things that you don't have down pat. Isn't this the opportunity to fumble the snap on the second play of the game? The defense ain't gonna be able to stop nobody. Isn't this the time to show it now and then work on it through the rest of camp, through the rest of practice and joint scrimmages before the real game start? Isn't that time to do that? Would I have liked to look better this past preseason game? Obviously, of course I would. But at the same time, like, isn't that the whole point and principle of preseason? So you can work on things. So you can go ahead and get these jitterbugs out. You can go ahead and look terrible. New coach, new quarterback. They came in and installed a lot of different things on offense. So it's kind of that time to kind of, And then Coach Stefanski told us before the game, like, hey, man, these plays are just going to be some vanilla plays, bro. Y'all thought Tecmo Bowl had some vanilla plain Jane plays. That's all we're going to run. We're going to do some check down. We're going to do some base blocking, and I'm going to pull the guys out. And then I'm going to evaluate the guys trying to get a roster spot for the very most part. So isn't this like the time and the opportunity to work on those things? If we're going to look bad, if we're going to look terrible, let's do it in the preseason. That way, when the real games start, we more up to speed. And all the crashing out that I've heard is like, well, guys, this time last year, all of us was complaining about the starters not playing preseason. And then when some of the starters played preseason, we're complaining about how they played in the preseason. So, like, we want our cake and our ice cream too. Like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. If Stefanski don't play the starters and then the backups come in and they looking bad, then the fans gonna say, well, hey, where are the starters at? Well, the coach put the starters out there and give them the opportunity to, shake some of that rust off. And we're crashing out. We're upset about that. But again, like, isn't that the whole point of preseason? Y'all let me know if I'm tripping. Go ahead and get these mistakes out your system, man. Go ahead and let's work on things that we need to work on. Isn't that what preseason is for, y'all? Now, am I coming on here excusing poor play and poor performance and looking like we just started practicing the day before? Of course not. But, I'm trying to remain level-headed. I'm not trying to get too worked up about it, and that's some of the reason I wasn't even in a rush to come in and talk about the game here on YouTube after the game was over, because I seen everybody else just crashing out about it, man. So I was like, you know what? Let's just see how things play out. We've been asking for years for starters to play in the preseason. We got our wish. So we at least owe that to the players, and we owe that especially to the coaching staff to play the guys in preseason, how they want to play them, and let's see what they do after preseason games to get better. When they go in the film room, when they get on back on the practice field and work on things that did not work in that game, or try to improve certain things that did work in that game. That's the whole point of preseason, I thought. MVM says no one saw anything in Brett Favre either, so I see what Jack can bring. I'm still mad that we traded Favre, man. We finally, well, at that time we talked about 91, I think that was. We drafted a first ballot Hall of Fame and Hall of Famer, and then we end up trading him for peanuts, basically. I'm still mad about that trade. The Falcons had a good core in the 90s, and for whatever reason, we could not keep that core together. Lost Favre, Dion, Brian Jordan. Don't get me started. um, let's see. Avio reason, brother, I checked out when we signed Stefanski. Man, don't do that, man. Like we got to at least give the coach an opportunity, bro. We got to, and going back to Raheem, we all pushed Raheem Morris out of town. We told him to pack his bags, take the first thing smoking out of Atlanta. So once we got our wish, we got to at least give the coach a fair opportunity. I'm going to be behind Stefanski just like I was behind Raheem and Mike Smith and Arthur Smith. Until they give me a reason not to get behind them. Like maybe 2 years from now, if I look and say, no, these ain't the guys, then that's different. But I say this often, but anytime we hire a new coaching staff, man, the overall extreme vast majority of the time, I'm gonna get behind the coaching staff. I'm not as I guess I'm not as critical or I don't evaluate coaching staffs additionally as much as I do players. I get behind them. That goes back to Raheem not playing his starters in the preseason. If that's what Coach Morris want to do, that's his philosophy. Let's see if it works or if it don't work. If Stefanski wants to play his starter some in the preseason, I'm cool with that. Let's see how it work or it don't work. I know Seattle won the Super Bowl last year, and they really only played their main starters one possession of the entire preseason. My personal opinion, I think to a certain extent in today's NFL, preseason has got somewhat overrated because I don't think that one possession Seattle played last preseason made them help them make the playoffs and win playoffs games and eventually win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that it hampered them, but they were already a very, 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 very great team, obviously, to win a Super Bowl. To me, if you got a great team, you got great players, man, they're gonna perform in the regular season. I don't think preseason is gonna make a bad team become a playoff team. From a roster talent standpoint, I don't think so. Do I think it's great dress rehearsal and again to work out kinks and work on things you need to improve on? Yeah, I do. But I don't think it's this miracle worker that I hear people act like it is. That's just my own personal philosophy around preseason. Timothy says that they're not doing great in the regular season. Either we miss the playoffs and we ain't gonna ever be back in the Super Bowl if we play smart like in 2016. I'm hoping that we can at least get back in the playoffs. I'm not gonna fool myself and say this is a Super Bowl contender at this moment, but I'm hoping we get in the playoffs this year, man. Is our roster strong enough right now? That remains to be seen, man. That really remains to be seen. If I'm being honest, I really think Atlanta 2027 is going to be a critical year for us. At that point in time, we'll be able to continue to build on the current roster with more draft picks. We'll have over $100 million, I think, in salary cap space to spend. I really think 2027 will be a critical year for us. Not saying that I'm giving up on this year. I don't think we can see some success, but I really kind of got my eyes set on 2027 because we're going to be able to do so much in the off season. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And again, I'm not bypassing 2026. MVM says patience is a virtue. Yes, that is correct. That is correct. As the old saying goes, MVM, Rome, not built in the day. Philly, excuse me if I don't get everybody's name correct. Y'all don't have my glasses on and I'm blind. Philly made Icon 4766 says, I've been mentally checked out since we lost to the Eagles back in 2017. That was a heartbreaker, bro. What we had first and goal at like the 4 or 5 yard line, and we couldn't score. The first 3 plays was just dumb. Philly, don't get me started on that, bro. I don't ever expect anything except we'll never be bad enough to get a top 3 pick. And you know what? That's like been a conundrum for the Falcons because we haven't obviously been good enough to be a playoff team in like 10 years, but we haven't been bad enough to get in the top three. Although, what was Kyle Pitts' fourth overall pick? But since then, we haven't really cracked the top five. And that's normally where your top tier quarterbacks are hanging out at in the draft. And I've heard some people say, and I'm not saying that anything is wrong with someone else's opinion, but I've heard some fans, hey man, shoot, we either need to make the playoffs and we just need to win 3 or 4 games so we can get a prime draft pick and get a new quarterback, or get a premier person in the draft. Get one of those studs. And I can understand how people can feel that way, man. It's hard room for a team, and it's been 10 years since you've been in the playoffs, and it's just been since the Super Bowl debacle. It just seems like it's just been one bad thing after another that has transpired. It just seems like we can't get on track. If it ain't one thing, it's the other. We had stuff happen this offseason, and we all looking like, oh, here we go again. We can't never catch a break. We lose one of our young star defenders to injury early in the process, during practice in the offseason. So, it's been a tough ride as a Falcons fan. I always say if you're a Falcons fan, you should get free health care because you definitely need it. You definitely need it. If you are a Falcons fan, you need free health care. You're going to need it. You know what I'm saying? You're going to need some therapy. You're going to need some counseling. You know what I'm saying? You're going to lose some hair, obviously. You know what I mean? It's rough, man. It's rough room for these birds. But, hey, that's our team. We got to ride with them, man. We got to ride with them. T-Dub Sixes, what's up, Tyler? What's happening with you, T-Dub? How you feeling, man? Appreciate you sliding through, my guy. Phyllis says, I'm not a fan of tanking. Yeah, it's hard. Honestly, man, tanking in the NFL, tanking is really you really can't tank in the NFL. Not purposely. Now, ownership, they can try early in the offseason process to put out the worst possible product they can to win the least amount of games. And even then, it's not guaranteed because once these players get on the field, man, they're gonna play. Most of them are gonna play, because hardly any of them have a fully guaranteed contract. So you got guys trying to put out good tape for their next contract. You got coaches and general managers and assistant coaches. Hey, man, they like these multi-million-dollar jobs. They're trying to do everything that they can to be employed. And I kind of hate to keep dwelling on Tyler Algier, but I know as we have been talking in the offseason, like, well, why the Falcons didn't trade Tyler Algier and get something for him? That goes back to coaches and general managers. You had Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot. They knew that their backs were against the wall. Their jobs were on the line. So they're not trading Tyler Algier helps out the next regime. It doesn't help them. They need all hands on deck, and we were in the playoff race for essentially the entire regular season last year. So it's hard to tank, man. It's really, really hard to tank because, these guys, again, playing for contracts, playing for pride, playing for ego. And if you made it to the NFL, man, you're very competitive. I know it's easy for me to sit up here and call guys sorry or trash and all that stuff, but you don't make it that far in professional sports to the NFL if you ain't got a crazy, vigorous, competitive spirit and you're not a true competitor. And, once you're out there competing, that competitor comes out of you. You want to do everything you can to perform at the highest level. And that guy that's in front of you, you want to do everything you can to whip his ass every single play. You're not trying to lose not one play to that guy that's in front of you, even down to the kickers and the punters. They're not going out there intentionally trying to miss, even though with our kicking game the last 5-6 years, it seemed like it. But they're not going out there trying to miss, man. These guys are playing for livelihoods. They're playing to make sure they can pay off that mortgage on that mansion. They're trying to get a new contract, to get a few more cars and all that stuff, man. So it's tough when it comes to taking an NFL. MBM 1978 says Darius was a good sign, though. Yeah, I like that signing, man. I think we got what we could based on the situation we were in. I think we signed him for $6 million. Like, do I think he'll come in and do what James Pierce Jr. did last year and get double-digit sacks? I don't think so. I would love if he did, but I don't think so. But man, if you just come out there and give us somewhat of a consistent pass rush, set the edge on the run game, hey man, if you can give me 5.5 sacks or more, it's hard, to be upset about that. It's real hard to be upset about that. Let's see here. Lepore, hope I said your name. Leopore, excuse me. 3024 Arch Manning would look good in Atlanta. Possibly, but man, this is the thing, bro. I hate to say this, but Arch might pull an Eli Manning if the Falcons draft him, man. And that's one of the downsides of being like a consistently terrible team. You have situations like that. I'm not sure that the Falcons my team, man, but I'm not sure if Arch would I don't know. I'm not sure if the elder Mannings, I'll say that, the elder Mannings would allow him to play for Atlanta. And we all know the Mannings got some pull. Y'all saw what happened with Eli. Like, no, I'm not playing. I think he got drafted with the Chargers. I'm not playing for y'all. Bump that. So, but we shall see. We shall see. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll let him play here and like, hey man, like you can take the Falcon from the sugar. You know what I mean? You never know. You never know. Philly says, but at the same time, though, I feel like athletes in every sport don't care it anymore. Now, I can't agree about that, Philly. I do think some care more than others. And, of course, there's a financial impact in every professional sport because these guys make crazy money, man. But I do think they care. I think the vast majority of them care. Do you have some guys in the locker room that just trying to get a check, cash check? Obviously so. But I strongly feel like the vast majority of professional athletes, they're most times than not, they're going out there giving it everything that they got. And there are some situations sometimes that are outside of their control. You might get on a terrible franchise who don't know what they're doing. You might be in a bad system. You might have a bad coach. Y'all know me. I all ever blame stuff on coaching nowadays, but there's a lot of things that go into it as a whole. Timothy says, one thing for sure, I miss Michael Vick and his era with the Falcons. He was fun to watch. Yeah, Vick was super excited to watch, man. The Michael Vick era was one of the most exciting eras in all sports for me, for the teams that I root for. The Michael Vick era was one of a kind. It was unique in so many ways. Michael Vick came and he did things with the football athletically that nobody had really seen to that level. You had guys who were athletic at quarterback, obviously before Vick, but Vick just kind of took it to another level. And he had a mass following, such an impact. Number one selling jersey, getting on the cover of Madden, his own cleats. It was a very, very fun time to be a Falcons fan, without a doubt. And Michael Vick never got a Super Bowl. Love Vick, though. That's true. And ultimately, it's about winning. As much as we love Vick, it's ultimately about winning. And I got a lot of respect for Mike Vick. Got a lot of respect, for Matt Ryan. And obviously, Matt Ryan has been the most successful quarterback for us. He's took us the furthest. He got us to a Super Bowl that we all know we should have won. And I'm really just hoping whoever the next franchise quarterback be, whether that be Michael Penix, whether that be Tua. I can't say Tua last name, so y'all got to excuse me. I'm a country boy. I ain't learned how to say it yet. Too many syllables, man. Y'all know I'm an idiot. But if it's some junior in college right now, a sophomore, a senior in college, whoever the next franchise guy ends up being for Atlanta, I hope he is by far better than Michael Vick, by far. I hope he's by far better than Matt Ryan. We're to the point, and I say this respectfully because we love Vic, we love Matt, but I hope it gets to the point the next quarterback is so great that we stop talking about Vic and Ryan as much as we do. I want that next quarterback to be so great that we stop talking about Vic and Ryan like we do. It's almost like Bijan. We like Bijan, like, ooh, we don't talk about Michael Turner as much no more. We don't talk about Jamal Adams as much anymore. William Andrews, Devontae Freeman, all the other, very good, great running backs that have been through here. Like, shoot, we just talk about Bijan. And I want the quarterback version of Bijan. I want a true bona fide dog. You look at that guy, you saw that's a first ballot Hall of Fame talent. And honestly, I think, I ain't gonna say I think, in my opinion, that's something that we have never had in Atlanta quarterback. Just a true bona fide first ballot Hall of Fame. Respectfully to Barkowski, respectfully to Vic, respectfully to Ryan. But in my opinion, I don't think any of those are first ballot Hall of Famers. Obviously, Vic and Barkowski are not because they didn't make it first ballot, and I don't think Matt Ryan will either. And I say that respectfully. Got my dog James Holloway in the building. What's going on with you, James? Tired of that? I think seeing the ghost. What it do? What's going on with you, James, bro? Appreciate you coming in. Yeah, man, it's me, bro. I know it's been a minute, man. And I got behind on my YouTube content, but I'm trying to get more consistent with it, especially with the season starting, man. So I gotta be more conscious and be more intentional, with creating more content because I really enjoy doing this a lot. So I just gotta get myself back in the habit of doing it. You know how it is when you get yourself out of a habit of doing something. Sometimes it's hard to pick that habit back up, and that's what happened to me, man. I took a few months off of the off season from YouTube. T-Dub says, I hope the defense can show up like they did last year, but better. Losing Walker, JPJ for 8 games, and Coach dealing with his wife passing. Yes, rest in peace to Coach Ulbricht's wife's also, man. She was a very young lady, man. So it's always a tough pill to swallow when you see that or you hear about that. So my condolences go out to Coach, his family, especially his kids. I think they have some pretty young kids. But you make a great point, T-Dub. And speaking of that, that's a good segue. Us losing Jalen Walker, which I talked about the last time I did a live stream almost 2 weeks ago. And since my last stream, James Pierce Jr., he was suspended for 8 games. Godale finally dropped the hammer. We all knew that was coming, but we wasn't exactly sure about how many games he were going to get, but he got 8 games. Suspended for 8 games. That's kind of exactly why I thought it would be an 8-game suspension. I thought it would be an 8-game suspension, and then he would appeal and maybe get it knocked down to 6. But I really did see a 8-game suspension. That was what I was forecasting early in the process. And to speak a little bit about that, I want to first preface this and say I'm not judging James Pierce Jr. because y'all trust me when I tell y'all this. I could write a New York Times bestseller on stupid, dumbass, immature, knee-jerk decisions. I could write a bestseller on that because I've made a ton of them in my life. So, not judging him when I speak about this. I really hope James Pierce has gotten that part of his chapter behind him, and he does not revisit it because he is an incredible talent. This guy is an incredible talent. The only reason he was there for us to take when we took him later in the first round because of the character issues. Outside of that, they were saying this guy top 5 pick, and we saw why last year. This man had technically on the books, I think it was 10.5 sacks and less than 600 snaps, y'all. I think Pierce had played 583 snaps last year. Somebody can look it up if you want. But I think he played 583 snaps, and I think he averaged about a sack, like maybe every 55 snaps or something like that. No, that don't sound. I think my math wrong. Oh, let me look at my phone. That math don't seem to be mathing for me. That math don't seem to be mathing. Let me see. 10.5. Yeah, that's right. Every 55 snaps, James Pierce got a sack. Phenomenal. Just imagine if he came out starting every game, getting like pretty much all the snaps on defense. Man, that man probably would have had 15, 16, 17, possibly 18 sacks as a rookie. You know, he didn't play like veteran starting minutes like you would expect him to play like he was a fifth year starter or something like that. But what I'm trying to say about Pierce is it's unfortunate that situation happened. I definitely hated to see it when the story originally broke, and then you saw the footage and everything afterwards. And like we always do, especially in the off season, we were going back and forth about how many games he would get, or some thought he wouldn't be suspended at all. I always fully knew he would be suspended. To me, there was no question at all about that. Especially once you saw the video, like the video, that was the cherry on top, so to speak. Now, if the video did not exist, and there was just some issues happen, and he ended up getting arrested, then the punishment is not as severe. But as we all know, when you got a visual with something, it amplifies it a lot. And there was some speculation that he will not be suspended because the charges were dropped. And that was not going to be the case. Not in today's NFL. Maybe James said it was 593 snaps. Appreciate it, James. Thank you. There was some speculation that he would not be suspended. And I knew that just would not be the case. And the speculation was because his charges are going to eventually get dropped once he completes the program. So, there was speculation, well, he won't be suspended because of that. And that just was not going to be the case. That's not how the NFL's personal conduct policy operates, and how it reads and how they implement it. I'm going to read just a passage to you from the NFL's personal conduct policy. It says, the policy further says, if you are convicted of a crime or subject to a disposition of a criminal proceeding, you are subject to discipline. But even if your conduct does not result in a criminal conviction, if the league finds that you have engaged in conduct that's prohibited by the policy, you will be subject to discipline. And I think there has been some confusion about the conduct policy. It's not based on you getting arrested. It's not based on you getting arrested and if the charges get dropped. It's not that. It's a personal conduct policy. So they're not solely relying on, the state of Florida, they're gonna drop the charges, so we ain't gonna discipline. No. Personal conduct policy, and the stuff that was on that camera, and it speaks for itself. And I firmly believe that's why James Pierce isn't going to appeal it. He gonna stand up like a man and take the punishment that comes with his actions, which I respect him for. Yeah, I made a mistake. This is a result of my actions, of my mistake. So I'm not gonna sit here and play in nobody's face. Although it looks like these charges are gonna get dropped, I know there was some wrongdoing on my part. So I'm not finna appeal this. I'm not finna play with y'all. And I know these 8 games gonna cost me a lot of money, like $8 million, really. But that's why he's not appealing it. And that's how the personal conduct policy works. Like they don't care if you get your charges dropped. They don't care if you don't get arrested. Personal conduct. The NFL saw the film just like we saw the film. They heard the tapes just like we heard the tapes. They saw him resisting arrest just like we saw him resisting arrest. And it was a lot. So, they dropped the hammer 8 games. And I wish James well. because I feel like watching that and looking at that, like he snapped, and there could be some things, I try to be careful when speaking on mental health because it's such a real thing, but there could be some of that there, and I hope he gets whatever help he may need if he needs some help. But regardless, I do hope he seeks that out while he's away from the team. But he is suspended for 8 games, and that's a big blow. That's a monumental blow to the team because just like that, we lost our 2 starting pass rushers. Just like that. And outside of quarterback, y'all tell me, outside of quarterback, would you agree or disagree that pass rusher is arguably the next most important position on the NFL team? Maybe you don't feel like it's the second most important, but I feel like it's top 3. Of course, quarterback is 1, but I feel like, man, pass rusher is definitely top 3. If it's not number 2, I feel like it has to be number 3. But that's a tough pill to swallow, man. You losing your 2 top pass rushers, like your 2 edge defenders. You losing possibly a generational type pass rusher. And when I say pass rush, I mean in essence of getting to the quarterback, getting the quarterback on the ground, which James Pierce showed that he can do his rookie season. And I do understand that Jalen Walker did not have as many sacks as Pierce, but the thing that is forgotten about Jalen Walker is he's much better against the run. Excuse me. Like Pierce is a much better pass rusher, technically pass rusher, but setting that edge and defending against the run, man, Jalen Walker is damn good at that, man. And our our run defense is already kind of suspect anyway, so we don't need to be losing any kind of talent that can stop the run. So I'm honest, y'all. Like I'm being transparent. Like that really concerns me, man. With us losing our 2 pass rushes, that concerns me because y'all know my school of thought. Excuse me. When it comes to coaching, man, you gotta have some talent to be like a truly like high level coach, in my opinion. Like you just coaching subpar talent and average talent. Can you raise that talent some? Absolutely. But in order to just to reach that level where your legacy is talked about after you leave the sport, man, you need some talent, man. Like, and much respect to Phil Jackson. But people don't call him arguably the greatest coach of all time because he coached a bunch of so-so players. Like, man, this man coached Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Shaq, Kobe Bryant. You know what I mean? He even had Horace Grant, Dennis Rodman. He coaching a bunch of players that are the best that we have seen play for the most part. Some of the best. So people talk about the job that Phil Jackson did with the Lakers, and I'm not taking that away from Phil because I think he's a phenomenal coach, but he had exceptional talent. He had talent that people only dream about having as an NBA player. And I'm sorry for getting off topic, but to me, I'm gonna tell y'all, in my opinion, what was the best coaching job in the NBA that I saw. Speaking of the Lakers, it was that year, Larry Brown, I think it was 2004. Larry Brown, when they beat the Lakers in the finals with Chauncey Billups and Rip Hamilton, Ben Wallace, because he didn't have no true superstars. He was going against a bunch of superstars. And I feel like he just out-coached Phil Jackson. Like he had that team clicking on all cylinders. Chemistry. There was nobody out there scoring 35, 40 points in the playoffs. They just beat him with teamwork. So to me, in my opinion, for my lifetime, since I've been watching NBA basketball, that was the best coaching job that I ever saw from a coach in the year in the NBA, Larry Brown. I put that Larry Brown championship against any Phil Jackson championship in terms of just the best coaching job done. Phil Jackson, anybody, Coach Spo, what was the Spurs coach name? He's kind of sick right now. I forget his name. But all the coaches, everybody who's recognized as a great coach. 82 Monte Carlo says our player a player MF and my partner Jane with. Okay, you talking to Jane? My bad. Um, I wish we could have return kick, man, like Devin Hester. That's probably gonna be Zach Branch, man. I think Zach Branch gonna be that guy. I'm pretty sure he's gonna be playing special teams a lot his rookie year. And Branch has some talent, man. I'm biased, I am a Georgia fan, just so full transparency. But I feel like Zachariah Branch he's better than the third round talent. Of course, time will tell. I just feel like he failed because of his stature, man. He's a small guy when it comes to height and all that stuff. He ain't tall at all. He's a little bitty guy, but I see him in the same lens that I saw Darren Sproles. I see him as that kind of player. I think he'll end up with a similar career to somebody like Sproles. So, but yeah, special teams, I think that's going to be our guy, man. I think he's going to do some special things. Also, if this future team can change things around, our doubts will be different. Yeah, and that's really up to the Falcons, man. Like, we can say whatever we want to say. We can get mad, we can get happy, but the team got to win. It's ultimately up to the team itself or the team themselves to turn things around, bro. Like, people, we want to get behind the team and root for them and talk shit. That's part of being a fan. You talk shit to your friends, to your coworkers, to your family. Some people talk shit to their spouses. You and your spouse may root for different teams, and that just makes being a fan a lot more funner. As opposed to you always being the butt of the jokes. Oh, them sorry ass Falcons again. You can't even wear your Falcons hat or your Falcons t-shirt out in public because you're gonna get picked at. I don't know how many times I done went to the grocery store and I just slipped on a Falcons hat, or subconsciously I just got on a Falcons t-shirt. I mean, this is not a Falcons t-shirt, but I may have a Falcons t-shirt on. The boy, they be roasting the hell out of my ass. I be like, God damn, I can't even walk out in public with this stuff on. I mean, they be roasting the hell out of my ass. I actually, speaking of roasting me, but when Falcons gear, I went to a cigar lounge about 6 or 7 years ago, and I met Greg Lloyd, who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I had on a Falcons hat or a Falcons shirt, I can't recall, but he was roasting me about that. He like, well, you got some nerve, like wearing that hat in here, like wearing that shirt in here. I mean, he was just roasting me. I'm like, damn, Greg Lloyd, we don't know each other like that. Why you roasting me like that, bro? That was thinking like, damn, this dude roasting the hell out of me. Like, I get it, you played for Pittsburgh, but damn. Like, I'm just coming in trying to get me some cigar. He's just roasting me. And at first, I didn't even recognize it until he just started roasting me out of the blue. I mean, he would give me the business too. I'm like, God, and I couldn't say nothing back because we were sorry. You know what I mean? And then he even played in the league, so it was just like, damn. Yeah, but speaking of cigars, I met also in the cigar lounge too. Coach Brian Cox, who coached for us during the Super Bowl years, during that Super Bowl run. I met him, Coach Brian Cox, in a cigar shop in Stockbridge, Georgia. I was going in the humidor and he was in the humidor. And I stopped and talked to him, man, posed for a picture just like a fan would do, a little fanboy. You know what I'm saying? He was real cool. And it's crazy because he has such an imposing voice on the field. But he was like real soft-spoken in person. Like, he was just very soft-spoken. I don't want to say humble because I didn't have that kind of conversation with him to call him humble. But he was just very soft-spoken. It was nothing like what we experienced watching him coach our team. Let's see what else we got. T-Dub said, I think his people told him to take it because it will get worse. Yeah, the right thing to do is just take it, man. Just take what came with it and learn from it and bounce back. Bounce back. That's the best redemption story. Bounce back, be better than you were before that happened, and then just stay out of trouble, bro. Stay out of trouble. That's the main thing, bro. Like, Atlanta can swallow you if you're not careful. So just keep your head on the swivel. Hang with Bijan. I feel very confident Bijan will keep you out of trouble. Do whatever Bijan do. Bijan will keep you out of trouble. Timothy Collins says, hey, y'all, do y'all know the Super Bowl take place in Atlanta this year? I thought it was I don't think is it. I thought it was in LA somewhere this year. You sure about that? I thought Atlanta was later on. I thought it was somewhere in California this year. But you might be right. James said he got to get out of jail free card. He needs to take advantage of it and realize he is blessed to be in this position. Take the punishment, and we'll see you on the second half of the season. Bingo, bro. That's exactly how I feel, bro. Get out of jail free card because that's down there in Florida. And, man, Florida don't play, bro, especially when it comes to, like, they're resisting arrest and eluding the police officers, all that stuff. Shoot, Florida tough on crime, bro. Like, so you absolutely right, man. Like, just take what came with it. You know what I'm saying? Just focus on getting yourself better, like mentally, spiritually, physically, and just bounce back harder. Like James said, the second half of the season, we'll see you then, and man, just come back with a tear. You're gonna be rested. You know, so hey, just take over these last 9 games. You know, so just come back and show everybody what you're about. There's no way Todd effing back. He knows the Falcons are going to be. So, no, why you do me like that, bro? Hey, no comment, Noah. No comment on that. No, I'm not gonna let you take me down that hallway, brother. I'm not gonna do it. Shout out to my guy Noah, man. It's good to see you back in here, dog. At this point. I know where we're at Nate Ollie, which yeah, Nate, you're right. Nate Ollie, we trust, bro. Hey, Nate finna have to work for the money this year, dog. He done lost his 2 dogs, man. So boy, like I hope Brandon Douglas just can, continue his progression of his career, and be even better coming off injury because he had such a great season last year, which I believe was his second year in the league. Man, he just came out of nowhere, and he set this team on fire. And I really think Brandon Douglas, because obviously he plays for the Falcons, but I think his season was underrated last year as a whole by the NFL. When I say NFL, I mean just people in NFL circles, people who cover the league and talk about the league. Man, Brandon Douglas gave us a great season. And I don't think he got the recognition that he should have got for it. But hopefully he can kind of lead the charge a little bit. I saw something online where he was talking about his role in the defense this year, that he'll be moving all around the line. He was talking about his versatility, which is, always a plus, inside, outside, so that'll be a good thing. So, hopefully, he can continue giving us the same kind of play that he gave us last year. Timothy Collins says, if the Super Bowl takes place in Atlanta, imagine if the Falcons change things around this regular season. I would be surprised, but with Tua and Penix and the rest of the crew, I have hope. Let's hope so. Let's hope we can do what Tampa Bay did. I think they won. Tampa won when they were in Tampa, right? Let's hope we can be the second team to do that. It says if only 23 didn't happen, you wouldn't have got roasted. Yes, bro. And that was like about 6 years ago. So that was probably around. It was. It definitely was right during the pandemic because I remember I had I walked in with a mask on, the mask day. So yeah, that was in 2020, and the Super Bowl was only a few years before that. So yeah, you're right about that, man. If 23 didn't happen, a lot of things would have been different for us as Falcons fans. Noah says, yeah, it's in LA next year, Super Bowl in Atlanta during 2028. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought LA got it again, and then Atlanta soon after that. But yeah, going back to the crashing out, man. Let's just go ahead and move forward. The game, what happened during the game. I know somebody. I heard somebody talking about this earlier this week. They were saying that when the Detroit Lions went 0-16, they went 4-0 in the preseason. So, go figure, things can happen. And, let's see what the new staff is going to do. Let's see if they can get the team where they need to be. Let's see what team president Matt Ryan can do with magic that he can work. But, we really going to have to buckle down and get some very, very good quarterback play because the quarterback is really the engine that makes the NFL team go. You're going to have some very good, great quarterback play in order to really be successful in the NFL. So, let's hope we get that in 2026. From our quarterback position, I have no worries about Bijan. If Bijan going to be out there, Bijan going to do his thing. He's just that talented. I know Drake gonna do his thing, and hopefully Kyle Pitts, he is consistent and he gives us another great year. Watched him on Cam Newton's show, and he seems like he's focused and his head is on his shoulder. So, let's see what he does. I'm just hoping that the defense can be somewhat on the same level this year. Like I say, losing our 2-star pass rushers, man, it concerns me like no other. Like that's really at the top of my mind now that the season is almost here. Knowing that James Pierce not going to be there terrorizing quarterbacks, knowing that we're not going to have that versatility and that run defense specialty of Jalen Walker. Of course, we lost Caden Ellis. I'm hoping Devon Diablo can stay healthy. I'm hoping that Jesse Blakes can continue to play to what we've seen since he's been in Atlanta these few years. I'm hoping that Xavier Watts don't have a sophomore slump. I'm hoping he progresses and gets better. I would love to see AJ Terrell get 4 interceptions this year. I would love to see his little brother come in there and just be a stud as a rookie. So we got some talent there, but can we put it all together? Can we put it all together? It's going to be the key thing. Hoping Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees and Jeff Ulbrich, our coaching staff, can come in here and do a phenomenal job. Just get this team back to winning, man. Like I said, I don't expect this team to compete for a Super Bowl this season. I don't expect this team to be in the NFC Championship game. But, hey, let's just get in the playoffs, man. As Falcons fans, you get us in the playoffs, bro, we ain't going to have a lot of complaints. We get in the playoffs, we lose in the first round. Yeah, we're going to be a little upset. We're going to be pissed off, but we're going to hold our head up high. And we're really going to be looking forward to next season, and we're going to have something to build on. As fans, we'll have something excited about. We'll have something to be excited about going into the following season. The team will have something to build on. Then you're going to have all that money in the offseason. You'll be able to better attract free agents. So let's just try to get in the playoffs. That's my thoughts. But, yeah, crashing out. Y'all, hey, it is what it is. The game is over. Let's not read too much into it, because this is what the fans wanted. Y'all want the starters in the preseason. You got it. Live with it. You know what I'm saying? That's what we crucified the last coaching staff about. So now that you do have your starters playing, hey, deal with it. Let them make their mistakes. Let them throw interceptions and fumble. Let's go on and get all that stuff out their system now. That way when September gets here, we're ready to ball. And with that said, man, I want to thank everybody for coming in, chopping up with your dog, man. I know it's late. It's almost 1 o'clock here. And I just popped in. I didn't want to stay too long. So we're approaching an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and check out. I'll try to come on Saturday after the game, even though it's really not going to be a lot to talk about. There's just going to be a bunch of backups and practice team guys playing. But, we may come on Saturday, man. If so, I'll try to set a timer so y'all can know that I'm going to come on. If not, I will be on sometime that following week. Until then, peace, y'all. Y'all be good. God bless.